What's going on, guys? It's Greg Styes, and this past weekend was what I think one of the best Final Four and championship weekends there's been in a long time. Attendance looked great. Both the semifinal games were in overtime. The championship was a super exciting game. There were some great storylines, but I think there's one thing that does need discussed after this weekend, which is, does lacrosse need reviews and challenges? So obviously this has come up before, like the Maryland-Virginia game, which we've discussed, where the bar down came clearly out of the goal. They called it a goal. There's really nothing you can do about it. And then this weekend, you had in overtime, Duke win on a diving goal. Upon further review, it was pretty clear that their foot was in the crease, still called a goal, no opportunity for a challenge or review. Game over, Penn State goes home, Duke advances to the championship game. So I think this brings up the idea of maybe lacrosse does need some sort of goal review, some sort of challenges. In the PLL, they obviously have challenges. In many other sports like baseball, like football, they've really been ramping up the review of scoring plays or of balls and strikes to make sure it gets as accurate as possible. There's some old school schools of thought that say like some error in refereeing or calling the game is part of the game. And I do agree with that to some point, but I think in a situation as important as this, it probably calls for some sort of review. So currently, as it sits, there is no review process in the NCAA. Except for you can have some timing plays reviewed. So for example, if it's a shot at the buzzer, they can review whether or not the ball left the stick before the clock ticked down to 0. I think the same goes with the shot clock. So I think the only way that they can currently take a look at it is to resolve a timing issue, because that's a new rule. Just like basketball, if the ball is released before it hits double zeros, then it can still count as a goal if it goes in. Same with the game clock. Same with the shot clock. So I would argue that it probably is time to add a review process, and I think it would be really easy. It's obviously beyond expectations to have it go through the whole NCAA season at every single team. There's so many teams, they don't have great video for all of them. But I think once you hit the quarterfinals, where you've got only 2 locations, the same high quality ESPN broadcast with multiple cameras, there could be an opportunity for maybe a way to start it is just every scoring play is quickly reviewed by someone in the booth. They just take a quick look at it. If it looks like it should be overturned, they take a closer look and they overturn it if it was in fact not a goal. Some of these things are pretty obvious, like the foot in the crease. If you wanted to make it even simpler, you could say only at championship weekend, where it's only 3 games, there is the same exact camera crew. They probably had 8 cameras at that game. They had every camera angle you could possibly want. The top officiating staff, maybe you just say only championship weekend, semifinals and championship. They're gonna add a review process for scoring plays. If you really think about it, maybe 20 goals a game, 60 goals get briefly reviewed by somebody in the booth, and it just ensures that when it's so important, when it's win and go home, that, I'm sure Penn State feels like they were cheated, and they probably were. I don't blame the referees. It moves very fast. And honestly, it's unfair to the referees to not have a review process. In full game speed, it's almost impossible for the refs to see that foot in the crease unless they had the perfect angle. There might have been somebody in front. So it really puts the referees in a tough spot where they have to make a snap decision and a full speed lacrosse. It's very, very difficult. I think everybody would be in favor of a rules review to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen again, because this was on a big stage, and honestly it's kind of a bad look for lacrosse that literally everybody knows it wasn't a goal and there's nothing you can do about it. That's just the end of the game. The post-game interviews were a little weird. So let me know what you think in the comments. I think this should be a discussion, and I'll be really interested to see after this, because it was on such a big stage, if the committee is forced to look at making a change.